look, I think, the way that we think about the South African rail infrastructure is we kind of think about the rail industry in two parts. We think about the general freight business, and then we think of the bulk business. Okay, and the sort of broad scale numbers there are that about 2/3 of the volumes moved in the South African rail network are bulk, and about 1/3 is general freight. Okay, and however, and depending on how you define what lines are bulk lines, the bulk lines are somewhere between 7 and 15% of the total network. So you've got 2/3 of total volumes moving on between 7 and 15% of the total network. Okay, so we spent about the last 3.5 years developing business cases for investment when the rail reform journey is ready for us. At the moment, the only business cases that we can see make sense are over bulk freight. Okay, so new investments into trains do not make sense from a general freight perspective. And the reason for that is exactly as Rudi says. About 12 years ago, Transnet started spending about 1/3 of the amount that they were spending previously on maintenance. Okay, and over the last 12-year period, you've now got an accumulated backlog of maintenance expenditure in excess of 34 billion rand. And of course, if you don't spend 10 rand 12 years ago, you can't expect to spend 10 rand today. That number increases exponentially. So you've got a situation now where the Rail Association area believes that the network needs a minimum of 150 billion rand and probably about 220 billion rand in order to bring the network back to its design condition. Okay, so effectively what that means is that as you seek to solve the two problems for South Africa's rail industry and rail transportation, which is too little freight moving on the tracks, in other words, not enough trains, and then the condition of the infrastructure, you're going to see investment, I believe, into the bulk sectors in South Africa to start with. Okay, but in order to unlock investments into general freight, you need the trains to turn around quickly. And for the trains to turn around quickly, you need to have high quality infrastructure. To have high quality infrastructure, we're going to need to see this rollout of, I believe, circa 200 billion rand into the infrastructure. Okay. Now, to government's significant credit, there's two policies here and there's two directions as to how we solve this problem. On the one hand, we've got third-party access, which addresses the first problem of not enough trains by tapping the private sector to bring train capacity to the network. And then the other side, you've got the PSP projects with the PSP framework having been approved, the PSP unit outside of Transnet sitting in the DOT, I believe, going to the department to DBSA, who's going to design the projects for the private sector to invest into the condition of the infrastructure, to uplift the condition of the infrastructure, to make it feasible to invest into trains. Okay, and this is where an enormous opportunity presents itself for Transnet and for the country, because if you consider the NATCOR line, the container corridor, the Durban-Joburg line, 710 kilometers in each direction. Okay, signaling solution designed in the 70s, implemented in the 80s, design transit time of 18 hours. Okay, and that's for a signaling solution that is now circa 50 years old. Okay. If we go with a modern signaling solution for that line, we don't upgrade the line to a high-speed line, 120 kilometers in the straight, 60 kilometers an hour around the curves. You can get from a transit time that's designed at 18 hours down to 9 hours, 52 minutes by our initial modeling. Okay. Now, if transit at present, depending on who you talk to, is using about 3 days on the transit from Joburg to Durban, that means 3 days on the transit means a best case scenario, you're invoicing each train 10 times in a month. Okay. Now, imagine a scenario where you're running a train in 9 hours and 52 minutes. It means you're theoretically invoicing a train twice in a day, 60 times in a month. The same train set can generate you 6 times the revenue. Theoretically, we all know practically life doesn't happen that way, and us in railway certainly know that it doesn't happen that way. But this is the massive opportunity that both sides present. It's the investment into the infrastructure, as Rudi says, that is the primary challenge that the country has, but also a wonderful opportunity for the upliftment of the competitiveness of the upstream economy, which is the most important.